I'd like to speak briefly today about something I just heard on the radio. It's 2 days after the meeting in Alaska between President Trump and President Putin, and the interview that I was listening to was with the former president of Finland, Sauli Niinistö. And Finland has the longest border with Russia in Europe. But that's not really the point. The point is that this guy's had a lot of experience dealing with Russia and a lot of experience in leadership. And there were two words that he used that struck me and are so relevant to what we're exploring in Beyond Intelligence. He said, security and peace. This is what we must be focused on. And I realized that most people are focused on defense and war. And I want to explore what is the difference between the focus on security and peace and defense and war. Of course, if you're highly sensitive and you're into the world of Beyond Intelligence, you will be able to feel immediately that there is a difference. But let's unpack this a little bit, because to me, this is hugely significant in terms of how we support a better direction for the world, which has less or no war and more peace, literally. So we know that words have power and they contain energy. So if I say the word peace or the word war, the energy is completely different in those, and we can feel the energy. Also, if I say the word security and if I say the word defense, you can feel immediately a different vibrational signature to each of those words. But there are some important aspects of this that I think are worth drawing attention to, because this taps into the way that we create more of what we want and less of what we don't want. Many people in these days are very focused on war, and they would all say they want to prevent war. They don't want war to happen. Everybody's very clear about that. And yet their conversation all the time is about war. And when we think about defense, we immediately invoke the energy of war. We have a defense system to prevent war from breaking out or to prevent it from escalating. So if we use the expression defense in relation to our military or in relation to anything else, it's always fundamentally invoking the energy of war. When we use the word security, what it invokes is a feeling of safety. Although security is a part of defending against war, what is being called into being, what is being sounded into being when we use the word security, is peacefulness. And it's very interesting because this president, when he spoke, when he described their security system, he started talking about having the largest artillery force in Europe. And so he was talking about the mechanics, if you like, of defense, but he was positioning it as a system of security. And it was that got me thinking, because when I was younger, I was very naive and just thought, well, we can just make peace. We don't need defense. We don't need all of these things. But the truth is that we do. We lock our doors if we live in a place where we're likely to get burgled, because we do need some defenses against people taking things. Not all people are good actors. So we can't say we never need defenses. We actually defend ourselves all the time by wearing clothes. We defend ourselves from the cold, if you like, or we could say we keep ourselves warm and comfortable. So defenses are an important part. But when you defend in the name of creating security, that is something that everybody wants and needs to experience. We don't want to experience our defensiveness. We use defensiveness when we need to, but we want to feel secure. It's the same with war and peace. We want to experience peace. It speaks to the longing of human beings and the deep values of humanity around peace and joy and freedom and abundance. These universal values that unite us, or unite well over 99% of the human population, according to some values research that I came across a few years ago. It's only a tiny percentage that actually wants something different from most of us, which is simple things like happy, safe, families, and we want to experience peace, we want to experience freedom, whatever that means for us, and these other things that I think we can all relate to. So when the former president of Finland talked about security and peace being the most important focus, he did something very significant. And that changes the dynamic from all the people, many of them good people, who are focused on defense and war, even if what they want is security and peace. And the reason for that is because the words we use and the energy that's packaged inside those words are important, because they create a vibration that touches all of the rest of creation, all of the rest of life, because there are no gaps in the energy field of life. So if I say the word, if I emit a certain energy frequency, that affects everything. It affects the whole, as well as myself and the people around me. So when I put my focus, my attention, and my energy into security and peace, my whole body relaxes. When I pay attention to defense, what kind of defense systems do we have? Are we safe? Is it going to be dangerous for us? Can you see how immediately it starts to activate fearful energies? And when I put my attention on war, even if it's preventing war or defending against war, all the time I'm bringing in the energy of fighting, of destruction, of killing people for the sake of some kind of national or international interests. And it's a very different energy that gets shared in the world. So the transmission of energy is completely different. And I personally pay a lot of attention to the energy that I transmit. So I listen as I speak, and I sense also as I speak, what is the energy that's being conveyed through my speech? Is it an energy that is creating more peace, that is contributing to peace? Or is it an energy that's actually, even not really meaning to, contributing to war? I remember listening to a conversation a few years ago between Dr. David Martin and his business partner, James, and I can't remember his family name right now, but they did a whole lot of conversations called Activate Humanity. They were brilliant conversations. They're an amazing pair. But one day I was listening to them talking about the potential of war and the likelihood of war. And I could really feel an energy in them, which I often feel. It was like, even in talking about it, and I knew it was the last thing in the world they wanted, there's a kind of stimulation of the fascination of the planes and the submarines, all the technology of war and the strategy of war, and all of the facets of war that are interesting in their own right. They are patterns in their own right. But what I realized when I was listening to them is that in getting fascinated by strategy and technology and all the trappings of war, you are actually at the same time contributing to building that war energy. When we get fascinated by the facets of peace, the technology of peace, which might be an inner technology, like for me, everything starts from the inside. If we can create peace in our own being, and then peace in our close relationships, peace in our local environments, our local or our natural communities, the places where we hang out. That is the peace that we can influence immediately. And when many of us are doing that, that contributes to peace at a wider level. And immediately the energy is different. So although it might be fascinating to look at all the artifacts of war, all the facets of it, what about if it was equally or more fascinating to pay that much attention and that much energy to how do we create peace in troubled times? How do I and you and the people that we know and influence actually help to build peace on this planet? Because it's what we long for in our hearts and in our beings, and what we know is the right way forward for us. We know that it must be possible to make peace. Yes, we need security. You can't have peace without security. And if that requires nations to defend their borders, families to defend their homes, all of these kinds of things, that's what's required and that's necessary. But we have security as a foundation for being able to build peace. And to me, that's the place to put our focus in these times.